All right, welcome to the Explainer. For a kid whose home life is, well, in turmoil, school can be the one steady thing they have. Their rock. So today, we're going to break down a playbook that's all about making sure that rock, that stability, never ever crumbles.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. What's a school supposed to be for a kid? I mean, yeah, there's the books and the learning, but it's so much more than that, right? It's supposed to be a cornerstone of their world, a place that's predictable and, most importantly, safe.
And really, this quote just says it all. When schools stay steady, kids feel steady. It's that simple. A kid's sense of security, it's totally tied to how consistent their world is. And a calm school, well, that's the anchor for a kid who's going through a storm at home.
But here's the big question. What happens when all that conflict from home doesn't stay at home? Because let's be real, the outside world doesn't just stop at the school doors. It spills right into the hallways, and it threatens that stability we just talked about. So, how does a school actually hold the line?
Well, at their core, schools are designed to be these pillars in the community. They offer stability, through the simple stuff like daily routines, a sense of normal life. They bring neutrality by having policies and enforcing them the same way for everyone. They create safety, not just physically, but by setting up calm boundaries. And maybe most importantly, they provide continuity. They make sure that a kid's learning and support system don't just collapse when a crisis hits.
Okay, so if you're going to manage these really tough situations, you can't just wing it. You can't just react in the moment. You need a plan, a system, and that's where this playbook comes in. Let's dig into how it provides that structure. So the foundation of this whole system is surprisingly simple. It's getting everyone to speak the same language. Think about it. When the teacher, the principal, the counselor, when they all use the same terms, all that confusion just vanishes. And it all boils down to 5 key words.
First up is role. This is just what it sounds like. Who does what? The teacher, the principal, everyone has a clear part to play. No guessing games, no confusion. It's all about clarity.
Okay, next we have trigger. This is the thing that happens that kicks the whole playbook into gear. It could be anything, a heated argument during pickup, or maybe an inbox flooded with aggressive emails. That's the trigger. So once a trigger happens, you follow a work stream. This is basically the pre-planned step-by-step process. It's the repeatable path you follow every single time, which means the response is always consistent and professional, not something you're making up on the fly during a crisis.
Then there's the artifact. This is huge. It's the physical proof, the documented output. We're talking an incident note, a summary of a meeting, whatever it is, it creates a clear, fact-based record. It's what gets you out of that messy he said, she said situation. And finally, the handoff. And this step is absolutely critical. It makes sure nothing and no one gets lost in the shuffle. When an issue goes from, say, a teacher to an administrator, the handoff makes it crystal clear who is responsible for the next step. This is how you stop kids from falling through the cracks.
Okay, so we have these 5 terms: role, trigger, workstream, artifact, handoff. But how do they all fit together to build a complete system? Let's actually map it out and see how we get from that initial problem all the way to a good outcome for the student.
What you're looking at here is what's called a closed-loop system. It's beautiful, really. It starts with the trigger. Something happened. That kicks off a work stream. Here's the path we follow. Along the way, we create artifacts. Here's what we're documenting. That leads to clean handoffs. Okay, here's who takes it from here. And the whole point of this loop is to make sure we get to the outcome. Here's how things actually get better for the student. Nothing gets missed. All right, theory is one thing. But what does this actually look like in the real world? When things get messy. Let's take a look at how this playbook can take a situation that's pure chaos and stress and turn it into something clear and manageable.
So let's start with a trigger that I'm sure is way too familiar for a lot of educators. A teacher opens their email, and there it is. A super long, really emotional, aggressive message from a parent or caregiver. The natural reaction, right, is to get defensive or maybe just ignore it. But we all know that usually just pours gasoline on the fire. But the playbook gives you a completely different path. The action? Use a neutral, pre-written email template. Take the emotion out of it. Just a calm acknowledgement. The response also sets a clear boundary by pointing back to the school's official communication policy. And it lays out the path. If this continues, it gets escalated to an administrator. See, it's professional, it's protective, and it de-escalates the situation almost immediately. Okay, now for something a little more public, a little more intense. Imagine this. It's dismissal time. Kids are everywhere, and a huge conflict just erupts between 2 caregivers. This isn't just disruptive, it's genuinely scary for the kids, and a situation like this can spiral out of control in seconds.
And this is where you can really see the system shine. Look at the response. Step 1 is triage. Staff immediately activate the school transition plan using a checklist to make sure the kid is safe. That's the priority. Step 2, document. They write up a fact-based incident note. Just what happened, no drama. That's the artifact. And finally, step 3 is the handoff. The whole thing gets escalated to an administrator or school resource officer with a clear summary. Every single step is calm, deliberate, and designed to bring things back to a safe place.
And the impact this has on the school staff, it is literally night and day. On the before side, you've got total chaos, constant stressful messages, that he said, she said confusion, and staff just getting completely burned out. But after the playbook, you have clear scripts and templates, you have clean, fact-based records, and you have defined roles and support. This isn't just about handling a tricky situation. It's about protecting the actual well-being of the people doing the work.
And you know what? The benefits don't just stop with the staff. Not at all. When a school really nails this and becomes that center of stability, the positive effects just ripple outward. It actually strengthens the entire community.
Just take a look at who benefits from this kind of stable environment. Of course, the biggest piece of the pie goes to students and their families. That's who this is all for, right? But look at the rest. School staff get a huge benefit from a safer, less stressful job. Community partners now have a reliable, steady institution to collaborate with. And that last piece, system trust, that's huge. People start to trust the system because they see it's fair, it's consistent, and it actually works.
So when you boil it all down, what are the key outcomes? What does the system really achieve? Well, for students, it's pretty simple. Less fear, which means a better chance to actually learn. For families, that school stability can become the foundation they use to start their own recovery. For staff, it lifts some of that heavy emotional weight they carry every day. And for the whole community, it means these crises get handled inside the school before they spill out and get bigger. And that brings us to this really powerful idea. When schools protect stability, families rebuild stability. A school isn't just a passive shelter from a storm. It's not just a place to hide. By actively protecting its own calm and its own consistency, it actually gives families the solid ground they need to start rebuilding their own lives. The school becomes a catalyst for healing.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. How can something as simple as a playbook really change the way we support our most vulnerable kids? The problems they face are incredibly complex, for sure. But maybe, just maybe, the solution starts with something simple: a clear, repeatable system, a playbook that turns chaos into clarity, and in doing so, might just change everything for these kids.